Okay, I think it's live. So hello everyone, and welcome to our page and our coffee hour today. For those who have seen me in the past, I'm Senator McMorrow's Director of Constituent Services and District Outreach. And I've had the privilege and honor of being able to fill in for Senator McMorrow as she's taking her maternity leave and have some really awesome conversations and bringing really important topics to the table to our constituents and allowing these important conversations to happen. So today for Women's History Month, in honor of Women's History Month, we've partnered with Megan and Laura from Michigan Women Forward, and I'll let them dive deeper into their organization. But we're going to be having a really cool conversation about the organization and women's history as a whole, and what that looks like in today's world. So, and we want this to be quite interactive. So if you have any comments or things that you'd like for us to touch on during the time of this live stream, let us know, put them in the comments, and I will bring them up when appropriate, but I will let you guys take it away.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Megan Bergman. I run two of our four pillars of Michigan Women Forward's four pillars. I run the Her Story pillar, which is the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame. And I run the You Go Girls pillar, which is our youth empowerment and leadership programs that are for middle and high school girls all around the state.
Thanks, Megan. And I am Laura Tomasi Miller. I am a member of the Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative at Michigan Women Forward. And we work with entrepreneurs across the state through our microloan fund, technical assistance programs, and grants like through our pitch competition.
Awesome. And yeah, and we can dive into the topics.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and kick it off since it is Women's History Month and or Women's Her Story Month, if you will.
Yeah.
Apologize for my crazy hair right now. And yeah, so this month, obviously I am just swamped with, requests for women's history presentations and information about the Hall of Fame and our Hall of Fame process, which is currently open, our nomination process. It's an electronic form. It can be found on our website, miwf.org. And I created the electronic form, and I am not tech savvy, so it's very easy to fill out. It's 4 questions, and you can submit supporting material via email. Just send me, links, pictures, whatever you want to send. And that process will close on April 10th. And then we will start the judging process, and our 2021 honorees will be announced in late July, I'm assuming. But yeah, honestly, I've been struggling not to be resentful at how busy I am this month and how little sleep I'm getting this month. Because I am tired, I have been tired for years now of the fact that women's history, Black history, Asian American history, Equal Pay Day, Sexual Violence Awareness Day, all of these things are delegated to short periods of time. And that means that, people like me who work in these fields are swamped during particular times of the year. And that's fine. I love what I do, and I love getting our message out. But, I'm really striving we at Michigan Women Forward are really striving to create a world where women's history, Black history, etc., is not, celebrated and then forgotten about for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to reopening the museum post-flood. We're in the middle of renovations right now. And having it a physical space, as well as a metaphorical space all year round, to celebrate the women in Michigan who are making huge differences every single day, positive differences every single day, and are blazing trails for young women like myself and for young women like my virtual visionaries participants and my virtual STEAM participants. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. And then Laura, do you want to talk about what you're working on lately?
Yeah, I mean, I think to build upon Megan's point, I think MWF, we want to really celebrate women's accomplishments, but we're also, as you can tell in our name with Michigan Women Forward, really future thinking, really forward thinking, and thinking about, women all around us are making history right now and will continue to do so. And so, with our, women's entrepreneurship team and some of the other initiatives that we do, I think we're looking to support that women's history that's in the making and thinking about all of the innovative women across the state who are running businesses and, coming up with these really cool ideas that are, getting off the ground. And I think we're looking to support that and celebrate everyone sort of along the way instead of necessarily having to wait 100 years later to recognize, the accomplishments. And I think, to Megan's point, being really sort of thoughtful about voices that are left out of that conversation. I think that that's sort of woven into everything that we do. And thinking about, some of the women that we hear about historically, and even now in current news and current conversations, certain people have a seat at the table or a louder voice. And I think that we seek to really elevate marginalized communities, women of color. We do work with entrepreneurs who are not women. We don't discriminate. So, we work with men too. And I think our goal is to really sort of fill the gaps where people have been left out of the conversation. And I think that that's a key piece of everything we do and all of the partnerships. A lot of the other folks that we work with in this space, I think, are all sort of striving to that same thing. And the goal being that it isn't just a month out of the year that we do talk about this, that it's year round and, every day that we celebrate the accomplishments and support the ongoing efforts of people in this district and across the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to tag team on that. So we hosted a Black History Month panel with 5 incredible panelists: Dr. Janae Caldoon, Carla Walker Miller, Faye Nelson, Dr. Rashida Harrison, and our very own Alexis Dishman, our Chief Lending Officer. And I remember being a little bit hesitant about, as a white woman, and Michigan Women Forward is predominantly right now a white women led organization. And we are consciously making an effort to change that. But yeah, I remember thinking, is this my space? Is this something we should be doing? And then I thought about, how we have Black History Month right before White Women's History Month, is what I like to refer to it as, because it is predominantly during this month. We do predominantly spotlight the white women leaders throughout history, the white suffragists, the white abolitionists, the white civil rights movement leaders. And, it's just the whole. And then I kind of thought about it and I was like, you know what? This is what white women should be doing right now. We should be behind the scenes, creating spaces where, our Black women and brown women and all women can step in and tell their stories. And that has been such a privilege. A privilege isn't even really the word, but it's it's important. It's important work, I think, for white women to be doing right now. And I encourage everybody to go to our timeline, our Hall of Fame timeline on our website, and research, we have over 330 women inducted into the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame since 1983, when Sojourner Truth was the first woman to be inducted. And I encourage people to go and read through and learn about some of the lesser known women of color who have been inducted into our Hall of Fame. And I think it'll be obvious quickly how much of an impact, women from marginalized communities have made on our state. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's especially what has happened in our world recently. It's really important to, when we talk about feminism or women's history, it needs to be intersectional. And I think that's really important that you've touched upon about using platforms of any kind to spread that message and talk about intersectionality without, hesitation, and to have those hard conversations and challenge people sometimes about opening the scope of what they believe either feminism is or women's history. So yeah, it's really great to talk on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Megan, I think it would be great if you wanted to share a little bit more. I know the Herstory Museum is kind of undergoing renovations, but that was such a great asset that I didn't even know about here in the state before I came to MWF. And I think this is a great opportunity. I know you'll have to share, it's not open at the moment, but sharing that is another great opportunity, I think, for people to learn about some of these great women of history.
Yes. Thank you, Laura. So January 6th, the day of the insurrection at the Capitol, and we also had peaceful protesters downtown Lansing, which I was really happy to see that it was a peaceful protest. But I woke up that morning to a phone call from my landlord at the museum, the building owner of the landmark building downtown Lansing, where we are housed. And he said, "There's been a flood." And I said, "Okay, it's 7:00 in the morning. Funny joke." And he said, "Oh, put your boots on and get down here." And I put my boots on and went down there, and sure enough, some of the museum was under 8 inches of water. And we lost a lot of stuff, a lot of artifacts and paintings by Michigan artists, women artists, and boxes and boxes of unaccessioned items that I never got around to putting into our collection as a one woman, show down here at the Capitol. I just couldn't quite get to it. So, it was just a crazy day. And I rallied the troops. I called my people, and Sean, our landlord, he called his son, and his son brought a bunch of friends. And it was just, I was simultaneously heartbroken and filled with hope, just because of how people rallied and literally waded through inches of water to carry out these super heavy exhibits. And then, since then it took about 2 weeks to get everything in the museum, to get the water dryers. I can't remember what they're exactly called. And then renovations started. And so we're not open right now. But we are hoping, maybe by mid-April, we'll be able to get back in and start setting up exhibits again and set up our Hall of Fame gallery. And, the month of January and February, I was honestly feeling a little bit betrayed, I guess is the word. Because nobody was answering my calls. Nobody was returning my emails. Nobody seemed to care. And I was just like, how is this possible? This institution that I visited as a young girl, that filled me with, when I was over in the Cooley Hayes house over on Malcolm X. How is it that people have forgotten and just seem to be okay with forgetting it? And then all of a sudden, like Women's History Month started, and people started reaching out, and I was like, yes, yes, we're gonna do this. I really truly feel confident in my Lansing community, as well as Michiganders all over the state that are like, oh, we do need to keep this institution around for another 40+ years. It is important to honor and celebrate women. It is important that gap between our public education and lack of women's history within our public education is filled by us.
Yeah.
So.
And it also kind of makes me, touching a little bit back on one of the first topics we touched on during this coffee hour was, it is important that we do have these times to look at women's history and Black history, but, kind of this kind of situation that you ran into, what would have happened if the flood happened in August, It just so happened to happen in a time where the focus was on women's history, but I guess it looks at expanding these important organizations like Michigan Women Forward to, little girls. When I was 10 years old, I was able to go to this museum and go to organizations like this and just look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg or anybody like that and just feel so inspired to make a change. And I think it's important that we have the resources and the organizations and those places where little girls can go and learn, and little boys too can learn and be inspired by these powerful and historical women.
Yes. And again, I really do encourage all of the viewers, everybody, to go to our timeline on our website and check it out. And boys as well as girls. I love that you mentioned that, Liz. And and because I think, as women, as young girls in our history books throughout school, we were learning predominantly about male leaders, and we were kind of forced to envision our futures and the changes that we wanted to make through men's achievements and what men were doing. And I want to flip that. I want little boys, or whatever you identify as, I want you to go to our timeline and look at these women and pull yourself out, and realize that boys, girls, whatever you identify as, you can look up to a woman. You just have to be a little girl. You can be like, Dr. Mona Hatisha. You could be like Najah Bazzi. You could be like,
I was gonna say I'm a big fan of the women's national soccer team, and so it was a 2019 World Cup. Feels like all this year is just blended into one. But I would see little boys in a Megan Rapinoe jersey instead of whatever male athlete, and so it's so cool to see history changing women like Megan Rapinoe be an inspiration to all genders. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, and I think representation matters. Like, I think that's a great example. It's not just any one industry. It's professional athletes, it's college athletes, it's scientists and doctors and politicians too, with our first female vice president that we just elected. And again, that intersectionality, it's different identities that are being represented. And I think it's so important for boys and girls to see representation, to see themselves, to look up to people who they can relate to, and also to learn to look up to people who might be different than them. That's a good thing, that we're stronger together, and that sort of thing. And I think I think it's awesome to think about how young boys and young men are affected by that as well.
Yeah. And I know you guys, we spoke on it recently, earlier, and then also yesterday when I talked to you guys about how you are very aware that there's a lack of diversity within Michigan Women Forward. Is there any programs or any things that you guys are doing to, I guess, expand inclusion and diversity?
I can start.
Yeah, why don't you start? Go ahead.
So, for example, I am putting together a judging panel for the Hall of Fame nominations. And I'm consciously recruiting women and men. I might extend it to some men on the judging panel, but right now I'm really focusing on women of all sorts of different backgrounds. So in the past, our judging panel has predominantly been older white women. And they're fabulous. You know, they know what they're doing. They are history based. They're very non-biased. And they are diverse politically. You know, we have Republican, Democrat, independent women serving on our judging panel. But this year, I want to make sure that we have a judging panel that truly reflects the nominations, the nominees. And so, for example, I made an ask of a young woman our age, Venezuelan American, and she was just like so excited to step into that role. And I think it's just an example of women, marginalized women especially. They are ready to step into roles. They just need to be asked. We just need to be asking them, you know, and giving them the space. And us as white women stepping back a little bit and saying, you know, we value your opinion. We value the way that you would judge these nominees. So that's a small example, and I know Laura can speak to more.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this is an ongoing conversation. To Megan's point, I think historically, MWF leadership and maybe even just public perception was that it was very much sort of a white women's organization. And I do think that that's shifting. You know, there is a lot of growth happening. And, you know, there are people of color on staff. It's not all white women. And I think that the ongoing conversation and something that some of our teammates talked about this week was striking a balance, because you don't want to, you know, there's so many qualified people to sit on the judging panel, to join our team, to volunteer. You know, we have a pitch competition with judges. There's so many opportunities to get involved. And we want to, you know, we want to be really thoughtful about, you know, being intentional with how we recruit people and not falling into tokenism or putting sort of an undue burden on teammates of ours who are people of color. You know, well, you're talking about X, so like we need to get to, like, will you go? We can't have that sort of burden on people of color. To Megan's point, like white people have to, we as white women have to step up, but then striking a balance to figure out how we can support our colleagues and our judges and our volunteers and recruit really thoughtfully, because there are really qualified people out there, but they shouldn't sort of be in charge of then taking that baton and driving that conversation. And I think that, you know, our women's entrepreneurship team does reflect some diversity in a way that I think, yes, historically, perhaps some of the teams did not. And I think it's exciting to sort of continue to build out and think through that. And that is in large part in thanks to our Chief Lending Officer, Alexis Dishman, who is a strong woman in finance who thinks about these things and is really intentional and has done a great job. And so I'm really excited about sort of the future of the organization and the conversation for women in the state. And, you know, I would encourage, you know, anybody watching this and anyone in your district and that sort of thing who's interested to get involved, regardless of their background, to like reach out to us and check it out, because we are constantly looking for help and we want diverse backgrounds. You know, it's not just a conversation about race and ethnicity. We're looking for some younger folks to come in. You know, to Megan's point, I think there's been sort of an older generation that's led the charge, and it's the younger generation's turn to kind of carry it forward. And so I think a lot of young women and also young men should consider sort of getting involved and continuing this conversation and building on all of these programs, and not even just at MWF, but in your local community and in your sort of place of employment and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I may be biased because she's my boss and I think she's awesome, but one of the things that's really cool about Sarah McMorrow is the fact that she is a millennial and she has a diverse background in different areas with it, you know, for her career. And she's bringing that to the table as a state senator now, and bringing the younger voice to the table. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, go ahead, Megan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, she's a trailblazer. I love it. I love to see it. It amps me up, and it helps me remember that, like, because there will be pushback. There will be people that push back on these types of initiatives, and giving a little bit more power to the millennials and Gen Zs, saying we're not ready, or our ideas are too radical, or whatever it is. And Senator McMorrow is just out there, loud and proud, and it gives me the courage to be loud and proud, doing the work that we're doing. So,
Absolutely.
I cut you off, Laura. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. I would echo that sentiment.
Yeah. But Laura, I think you should also talk about the Resilience Fund, and how we really targeted communities that really needed the help last year during COVID and with their small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mentioned some of the programs that MWF runs. Our microloan fund is sort of open year round. Grant opportunities and such are less consistent. It sort of comes as they're available. We open the programs up. But last year, through some generous support of our supporters, we were able to do a resilience fund as part of the COVID response, where we were able to actually do some forgivable loans, similar to PPP, but with a little bit more flexibility. And so we were able to help a few dozen entrepreneurs with forgivable loans, folks who couldn't access PPP, folks who either had barriers to that or didn't qualify or that sort of thing. And they were primarily women. There was a significant number of entrepreneurs of color and folks in and around the Detroit area in particular that were qualifying for that. And so I think our goal, at MWF, we talk a lot about, our programs and this, and here's our plans and here's where we're going. But I do think that our goal, and we do strive to sort of respond to the needs of the people that we're serving. And so the Resilience Fund is a great example of that, where entrepreneurs really needed something beyond just our typical microloan fund. And we were able, thankfully, to offer that. And we kind of try to bring that in all of our work as well. We're not going to tell you, at least, like I said, the women's entrepreneurship team, we're not going to tell you what you need. You tell us what you need, and we'll sort of do our best to see how we can provide that, and to do it in a way where we're filling gaps in the market and not necessarily duplicating other services that are being provided. So the Resilience Fund is one that, we're really proud of, because we were able to help entrepreneurs during COVID, which was a hard year for everyone, but particularly business owners, as I'm sure many people know. Business ownership is hard without a pandemic. And so, that's something that we were able to do. And then we did host our pitch competition. We took that virtual. And so we had 3 nights of that this year. And then, as I said, our microloan fund is sort of open year round. So we're here serving entrepreneurs, like I said, men and women, and really just trying to support folks who might not have support from traditional banks or other institutions.
And can I extend a little bit on that, branch off a little bit? So, Michigan Women Forward is a community development program, and like Laura, organization, and like Laura mentioned, is we understand that programs are much more sustainable, much more successful when the ideas and the needs are coming from the communities we're serving. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I think that this concept, which seems like a simple concept, but I think that this concept would make our world a lot better for people like Senator McMorrow, who is on, leave right now. And, if we just asked women, what do you need? What do you need to be successful? What do you need in your job as a mother, as a new mother, as somebody who can't sit in front of Zoom calls all day, who maybe needs to walk and talk, whatever it is. Everybody has their own individual unique needs. If we just simply started asking our community members, the people we work with, our family members, people we live with, what do you need? You know, what can I provide that you need and that I can give? Our world would be dramatically transformed if we just kind of took that selfless understanding that human beings are not, yes, we are all human beings, but we are not all the same. And we all have different needs. And women, especially right now throughout this pandemic, working from home, working 2 jobs from home, you know, being mothers if they are mothers, be 3 jobs, being teachers if they're, you know, if their kids are old enough to be in school, and then doing their own full-time job. And then also a lot of the times, even though it's 2021, a lot of the times the housework still falls on women's shoulders. So let me correct myself, 4 full-time jobs, you know, and we are still making rules. You know, the powers that be are still making rules based on what they think is necessary, what they think women need. That's not how it works, you know, and it would just be such a simple shift to just ask us, bring us to the table and ask us, what do you need to be successful? Because you are brilliant. You have skills and knowledge that we as men, we as white women, we as whatever lack, and we want to keep you. So, because we want your knowledge, we want your brilliance, we want your passion. So what do we do to make your life more manageable? You know?
We actually had the privilege of doing something like that. We partnered with another legislator from Marquette, Representative Cambensi. I think it was 2 or 3 years now, 2 years. And we went up to Marquette and had a conversation, a roundtable discussion of women in the workforce of all different kinds. I know there was from Ordoc Brewing, there was I don't know what the exact title is, but she worked in the brewery, and then someone that worked at a mining company. And so bringing the diverse backgrounds there, it's listening to all the different needs that they'll need. And then we came down to here in our district, and we talked from people, from doctors, professors, you know, someone I think that worked at the zoo, and listening to the different kinds of needs that they need as women in the workforce and how we can support them, because sometimes we're not asking those questions, or people are just assuming what we need without actually asking us. So it was a really cool conversation. And I know we're doing something like that in the future too. So it's something that our office is striving to always, you know, bring women around Michigan, and especially in our district, to who we serve, to the table to hear them and what they need as their legislator.
Yeah, you know, so I also run the You Go Girls programs. We have 2 different programs. They're typically in person, hosted by universities across the state. But, you know, we went virtual, we pivoted and went virtual last year. And so our high school girls program was called Virtual Visionaries. It was a future readiness. I don't like to say college readiness, because a lot of our girls might choose not to go to college right after high school. And then our middle school program was a virtual STEAM program, of which we teamed up with Deirdre Roberson and her team out of Detroit called Motor City STEAM. And they sent experiments in a box to our girls' houses, and we did it virtually. It was really fun. But now that I've given that plug of the You Go Girls programs, you know, I really, really want to make a world for them by the time they do step into the workforce or decide to have families or whatever it is they decide to do. Walk alone at night. You know, maybe they just decide they want to go for a midnight stroll. You know, I want to make a world where they are not afraid to have a family and have a job at the same time, where they're not afraid to walk alone, where they're never walking alone, you know, where we are asking them, what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel successful? What need to feel like you can have everything you want and not sacrifice, having children, for example. So I love this conversation. And Liz, I hope you keep me updated on that future conversation, because I would love to sit in on that and hear how that goes.
Of course. I do see one comment, if we're prepared for them at all. This is Larry from YouTube, who's tuning in from YouTube. And I think they have a really, really good comment. And I think maybe we need to expand upon it more. But they said, I'm 75. I understand your interest to motivate young people. I'm a strong supporter of young activists and leaders. Please consider that those of us who don't fit into your vision are valuable allies. And I think, any movement forward has everyone involved. And so I hope that we're not sending the message that we're just targeting young people. Everyone is essential to moving forward. And Larry, I hope you're a wonderful ally, and I'm glad you're here helping us.
Yes, I would echo that. I think it has popped up a few times in conversation, but it's worth revisiting. We want all voices at the table, and that includes a variety of ages, sort of all generations. I think there's a lot of talk about young activists and bringing new ideas to the table, but there's wisdom that comes from experience. And so we don't want to be pushing the older generations out. We just want everyone to kind of work together. And so that's, the gender conversation, age, race, and ethnicity, sort of all of the above. I think our vision would be that everyone supports these conversations and these efforts, and a rising tide raises all ships. Is that the saying? But yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's important to kind of come back to that, and that's important to keep in mind. And like I said, we welcome anyone who wants to work with us or support us. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to shout out my advisory council for the Museum and Hall of Fame. They are a group of 9 people, all retired, and have been supporters of the Michigan Women's Historical Center and Hall of Fame since its induction. Are all, good friends of the late Dr. Beckwith. And I would not have been able to get through last year without their guidance. I mean, there's just no way. So, So yeah, of course, we at Michigan Women Forward have a vision for the future, but that does not mean in any way that we don't value the input of those who came before us, who had their own vision for the future. And who really did create the space that we are in right now to continue to have visions. We wouldn't be here where we are, being able to have these types of conversations, with a state senator who is out there bravely saying things that people have told women to be quiet about. That stuff would not have happened if it weren't for them and their visions. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to dive into as we are, wrapping up the conversation a little bit?
I think I'm good. Again, the Michigan Women's Historical nomination, Hall of Fame nomination process closes on April 10th.
Yeah.
So, and you can go to our website and read about the criteria and kind of understand what type of caliber of nominees we are receiving, and fill out the electronic form. And then I will wish you the best in the judging process. And yeah, I love to read through the nominations myself. It's just, It's like a nice little break. I close my email and put my phone away and just focus on soaking up the love that somebody put into honoring the woman that they are honoring. And so the more nominations, the merrier. I love to learn about all of Michigan women who are paving the way.
Yeah. And we'll leave that information in our comments. Usually I'm the one behind the scenes chatting in when there's coffee hour. So I'll make sure to put that in. And I know you talked about the Michigan Women Hall of Fame, but I know with your flood and then also COVID-19, are there any other like fun interactive things that people can do on your website to learn more during Women's History Month or throughout the entire year and always?
Yeah, so we actually are this month we launched an International Women's History campaign or International Women's Day campaign where anybody can send us a picture and a short little paragraph of a woman that has inspired them. And then in order to get that woman's picture and paragraph up on the website, you just donate whatever you can donate. $8, it does not have to be something crazy. And then that woman will live in her story on our website. So that's kind of a fun.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. And then we also have our woman up. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I was just giving a shout out to Hannah Hebner, who.
Oh, yes.
Brainchild was that campaign. So
that's really cool.
Hannah runs a lot of our external communications, which along those lines, I was just going to say too, we do have our Woman Up and Celebrate events in the spring as well, which tickets are available for that if people want to join us. And we're always open and available to chat. If people want to get involved, we're happy to kind of match them with the opportunities and keep the conversation going.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today and coming onto this live stream with us. And I think doing a really great job of talking about where women's history is and where we should go forward.
That's our goal.
And bringing in inclusivity and making it intersectional. So I just want to say, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. I really love talking to you guys.
For having us.
Pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Tell Senator McMorrow that we hope she is snug or taking a nice walk, and her husband Ray.
Yeah.
I hope they're enjoying this weather and really enjoying their time off, their much deserved time off. And thank you so much for having us.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you once again, and I will say goodbye.